My name is Alana. Welcome to my channel. And I'm assuming that you're here because you want to watch my review of Heroes by Stephen Fry. Or perhaps you came across my contact was shifting. Oh, that was weird. It got caught on my lid. Or perhaps you come across some of my other YouTube videos and you've stuck around, or you've fallen down the rabbit hole of book reviews, because that's mainly what I post here. I post book reviews. And today, as you can tell by the title, and as I already said earlier, awkward, Heroes by Stephen Fry. I love me some Stephen Fry. His take on the ancient Greek myths are just so good. And so Heroes, I was about to start fangirling. So Heroes by Stephen Fry is really the second installment that was published after Mythos. And Mythos goes into a lot of some Greek myths, and then some of the most common, or the origins of the gods and all that other stuff. So if you are new to Greek myths and want to know where to start, I highly recommend Stephen Fry. Start with Mythos. I do have a review on Mythos. If I remember to, I will post a link to that review down below in the description box. And then the second installment is Heroes, and then the third installment is Troy. So in Heroes, he covers the myths of 8 ancient Greek heroes, and in Troy, which I will be reading this year and will be posting a review on, is of course the Trojan War. And then I believe he is having a fourth one. I don't know about what. I think I've heard some maybe if I do some quick research, I know he's releasing a fourth one, but it might be about Odysseus. I don't know. Don't quote me. Heroes by Stephen Fry covers the myths of 8 ancient Greek heroes. You will notice that none of these ancient Greek heroes are Achilles, Agamemnon, Hector, and Odysseus. They're in Troy. These are others. So we've got Perseus, Heracles, Bellerophon, Orpheus, Jason, Atalanta. The women get a hero, okay? Oedipus and Theseus. So not only, again, is Heroes a good source to explore more ancient Greek myths, after Fry's Mythos, I do believe that it's important to read Mythos first, because he lays the groundwork, the framework for everything that makes the world of these heroes make sense. He showcases in Heroes in particular what the ancient Greeks valued in a heroic figure, and this transition that we see focusing on the gods to really focusing on mortals in the ancient Greek world. So the two main questions that this book really answers are, what is a hero? And what is a tragic hero? And you can argue that no one really nails the tragic hero other than the Greeks and Shakespeare. And without the Greeks, could you really have the tragic heroes of Shakespeare? Because he had to have read the ancient Greeks and the ancient Greek heroes and their myths to get inspiration for his tragic heroes. So I would say only Shakespeare and the ancient Greeks have mastered the tragic hero, and no one has really been able to really do it like those two. But it all goes back to the ancient Greeks. So the heroes exemplify the traits that the Greeks, especially the Athenians, Fry focuses especially, I think, on the Athenians and what they valued in their heroes, because depending on where you were in Greece, Crete or Athens, the heroes that they kind of gravitated towards varied. So in Crete, tongue twisters, they preferred Heracles. In Athens, they preferred Theseus for different reasons based on the local culture of that area. So, but overall, really, it's Heracles that's considered by many to be the epitome of the hero. He's incredibly strong. He is the strongest of mortals. And of course, he's incredibly good looking, as all of them are. He's very blunt in the way that he communicates. But like I said, the Athens preferred Theseus. And with Theseus, you have a way more complex, dynamic character. He's intelligent and witty and physically strong and wise. However, he's still extremely flawed. As of the recording of this video, by the time it goes up, I will have finished it. But I'm reading Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. And I actually think that if you read this first and then read Ariadne, you'll be able to see what elements of Theseus's character and his flaws she chooses to focus on and why. You can see how complex the ancient Greeks how they viewed the complexity of their heroes, because Theseus, like Perseus, whatever, they all have this Achilles heel, if you will, all puns intended. And so they liked their characters, they liked their heroes to be complicated. So let's continue on about Theseus. I'm not really going to go into the 8 little synopses of each ancient Greek hero. Who ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, but I feel like I'm mainly focusing on Theseus here because he gets the biggest chunk of this book. I think rightfully so, because he is the most abstract and the most complicated. And I think he, out of all of them, really shows really is the best example of the ancient tragic hero. So what is certain clear is that Theseus was very much a human being with all the weaknesses, strengths, and inconsistencies that the condition confers upon us. Our modern fictional heroes, in a lot of ways, follow this formula, if you will, from the ancient Greeks. They have a fatal flaw. There's something that is their kryptonite, if you will. With Superman, literally it is kryptonite. But there's a lot that's appealing about this strong hero that has an area of weakness. We see that again in Superman. By the way, Superman was always my least favorite hero. There was something about him that always seemed a little wimpy to me, and I think it was the kryptonite. Like, I just could, even little Alana could not get on with kryptonite. My favorite hero, by the way, Batman, because in a way he's the anti-hero. He's just a rich dude with cool gadgets. Spider-Man to me is the perfect modern tragic hero, because to early 2000s, Tobey Maguire nails the existential crisis. Sorry, don't at me. Still the best Spider-Man. Thor is a mythological character, though. So let's see. But we like these heroes that from the outside, they are seemingly perfect, but they are all really kind of tragic in their own way, or there's something that they have to compromise, or there's something that they have to choose or give up for the sake of being a hero. So that was a bit of a detour. So in these myths, and I kind of talked about this, and I can't remember what review it was. Oh, it was Transit. I think, did I talk about it in my Pachinko review? I might have. I know I talked about it in Transit by Rachel Cusk. In these myths, all of these heroes have to contend with fate and the will of the gods. So a lot of people seek to understand the purpose or value these myths may have had to the ancient Greeks. And a common consensus is that these stories served as a way to both process the relationship between the divine and individual autonomy, while also personifying the abstract circumstances that all human beings, regardless of what space and time they find themselves in, have to contend with. Fate, doom, necessity, destiny. These are real, but so is your mind, will, and spirit, Heracles. You can walk away from it all. Forget Zeus's plan for you. Forget Hera. Forget Eurystheus. Forget their cruel exploitation of your remorse. You have more than paid. You are free. The gods in Greek myth represent human motives and drives that are still mysterious to us. Might as well call them a god or an impulse or a complex. To personify them is a rather smart way, not of managing them perhaps, but of giving shape, dimension, and character to the uncontrollable and unfathomable forces that control us. So a really important thing to point out here is how the ancient Greeks emphasized this on their mortality. And this is something that Stephen Fry talks a lot about in this book.
These myths
I literally just threw the book across the room. I'm not even going to go over there and pick it up. So these myths show that the ancient Greeks were constantly contending with the divine by shifting away from this system in which one's life is at the mercy of the gods and putting control in the hands of the individual. And I'm pretty sure that if you really wanted to, you could mark this... You could mark what the ancients were talking about, maybe some of their philosophers or whatever, when those were being written and consumed and read, and what myths or heroes perhaps they were focusing on or maybe more partial to at the time as their society continues to develop and focus on logic in the natural world. You could probably map that out, and then you could see how that aligns with how they're shifting away from these concept of fate and the gods and focusing more on individual rights and human autonomy. The rise of spirit and rational inquiry and scientific understanding pushed the immortals further from us. The world was being reshaped as a home for mortal beings only. And really what Stephen Fry is getting at is that's why you see this emphasis on the heroes. They are mortal men who are trying to do things outside of the gods, and how they're the ones that are starting to get emphasis and notoriety, and it's starting to overshadow the gods. The ancient Greeks greatly valued, especially the Athenians, greatly valued liberty, independent thought, freedom of speech. Really, their version or their understanding of freedom of speech makes our understanding of, in the way that we believe freedom of speech, what we believe freedom of speech to be, pale in comparison. They had, in a way, way more freedom of speech than we do. In a way, I would argue that the ancient Greeks were purists when it comes to freedom of speech. They were big on personal autonomy, and they were big on a state that did not impose its will on the individual. So in essence, the ancient Greeks were small government people, or a society of small government. The government, according to the ancient Greeks, should not be dictating the lives and the wills of those that fall under its governance. So because of this, in this, I mean, it's very pared down, but because of this, you see this in their Greek heroes, these thoughts and how they're grappling and how they're reasoning through society and what they're preferring in their culture, what they prefer in their government. The ancient Greeks were also extremely rational. They preferred to understand the world through what they could observe, and they valued rationality over the abstract. So again, these fictional characters are going to highlight what they prefer. This is a short review. It's kind of hard to review Stephen Fry, I feel like, because it's all of these little stories. So even like I've done with my Mythos review, I kind of focus on how his books that deal with the Greek myths really are a great way to provide the reader, whether they're a newbie or not with the ancient Greeks and the ancient myths, a way, so either somebody who's a newbie or somebody who's seasoned, a way to understand the world of the ancient Greeks. I think it's an excellent jump off point. And if you are familiar with them, like me, it's just a really good way to refresh your memory, or to just see how other people, in this case Stephen Fry, is interpreting these myths and the commentary that he has on these myths and the society and the framework that's around these myths, the societal framework rather that's around these myths. So again, Stephen Fry is always a joy to read. Heroes I found to be just as engaging, just as funny, and just as intelligent as Mythos. I think that the best way to consume these books, if you can, is through audiobook, because Stephen Fry narrates it, and he is just an immaculate narrator. Like I discussed in my Mythos review, listening to Stephen Fry narrate is like cozying up next to your grandfather on the couch and he's reading you a bedtime story. I mean, It's good, cozy stuff. um, and again, if you are new to the ancient Greek myths and you want to start diving into this world, this literature, this section of literature, this genre, he is an excellent place to start. And again, if you're a seasoned, he just tells these myths in such a way that they're not boring, even if you're familiar with them. I gave this book a 4 out of 5, but I'm actually going to be referencing heroes in particular when I review Ariadne. Because what Stephen Fry is doing is that he will give you a little bit of background about how the ancients thought about these mythological heroes. Theseus, again, is a good one because Theseus' story and how he treats Ariadne there are multiple endings. There are different plots. There are different stories. They kind of vary. And depending on where you were in Greece, you may get a different twist on his relationship, Theseus' relationship with Ariadne and how he treated her and why. And so the Athenians, for example, are a little kinder in their retelling of Theseus' story because they just could not fathom a Theseus who would do X, Y, and Z to Ariadne. Whereas a different area in Greece, we're just like, nah, the dude was callous, he was whatever. And so Jennifer Saint takes the more callous approach to his character. That was not Athenian. I believe the Athenians, they softened him up a little bit. And it shows that these people are like, no, but I can't have a hero that's that much of a jerk. So yeah. I'm going to kind of dive a little bit more. I'm moving a lot. I'm going to dive a little bit more into that when I get to Ariadne. But yes, I also think that Stephen Fry is great to read in conjunction or parallel to these novels, these Greek myth-telling novels, Circe, Ariadne, Electra, Sounds of the Girls, etc. If, for example, if perhaps you're intimidated, if you haven't read Homer yet, maybe you're a little intimidated by Homer, and you want to kind of get the lay of the land first before diving into Homer, he's going to give you a little bit more commentary than somebody else's fictional interpretation for the most part. He's going to give you multiple angles. Yes. Also, don't be nervous or intimidated by, especially the Odyssey. There are some translations out there that are very, very readable, and it's good fun. So yeah, I'm rambling. Let's wrap this up. It's time for lunch. I hope you enjoyed this all over the place review. It wasn't really a review in structured in the normal way because there's 8 heroes here. I'm not going to go into each one of them. And so I just talked about what I picked up on. So I hope that made some sense to you. If you liked this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. And if you are a Stephen Fry fan, please let me know. Or if you would like to read Stephen Fry, please let me know. Also, and then I'm really going to wrap this up, somebody left me a comment on my most recent book haul. And this is a really good idea. She was like, hey, she recommended I read Silence of the Girls by Pat Baker, which is a retelling of the Trojan War from a female perspective. And it is on my TBR. I don't own the book. One day I'll read it. And she was like, it would be cool to do a ranking of, after I read a lot of these myths, of how I would rank them based on historical accuracy, interpretation, etc. And I think that's a really good idea. I don't know how long that would ever take me to do, though. I have no idea, because I would want to also reference the source material as well. The contemporary, what would have been considered temporary when it was being released, like Homer and all that stuff, released like they had publishers. Okay, I'm done talking. But I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to stick a pin in that for sure, because I had a healthy rant about Madeline Miller in that book haul, because seriously, I thought was dull as who knows what. That Odysseus is no Odysseus that's ever been written in ancient literature. It makes no sense. And I was saying how I should spitefully read Song of Achilles because of what my girl Miller did to Patroclus. Like, that is no Patroclus that makes sense in the ancient Greek world. That is a 21st century take on Patroclus, but would make no sense to the Greeks. Anyway, I'm done. Bye.